Hola. That means hello in Spanish, so you have to say hola to me.
Hola.
Well, as Nazar said, my name is Claudia Ayala. I'm from El Salvador, and our company name is Living Broccoli. Like any social character company, Living Broccoli was born from a crazy idea of two people willing to do something that truly fulfills the need of doing something positive to a world. And our core business is advertising. So every day in advertising, a large number of canvas are printed for fences. And the canvases are generally scattered 3 months later, even though their lifetime is more than 2 years. So with that, what can we do with so many canvases meters that still works and are just, stuck in some room doing anything? And we did what a human being can do best. See what our needs has achieved over the time. And we realized that how many informal street vendors ask us for leftover from those canvases to cover their job from the sun, from the rain, and we thought it was a good idea. We can use the canvases as other thing, utilitarian thing. The road was long from there until now. We tried to open our own stores, sell online, go to craft markets every week and doing a B2C strategy. And we were growing, but not the rhythm that we wanted. Suddenly, the effort to sell one by one did not the cost of operators, vendors, designers, warehouse rents. And finally, Living Broccoli Factory was closed like 1.5 years ago. After a year of that closure and finishing the inventory that we were producing in that model of business, another idea came up with the brand. Only by closing the advertising cycle of our customers and brands and our own, we could make Living Broccoli a real socially responsible brand from our clients, from ourselves, and above all, a profitable operation over time. We found then a totally different business model, make green giveaways for our brands. So the cycle of their advertising increases, the canvases become objects that improve the quality of life of our users by the proper use of the resources. Beverage companies making packs for their beers and sodas. Credit companies making bags for their customers. Food companies transforming banners into sandwich bags. Telecommunication companies transforming their building signs into hundreds of lunch boxes and backpacks for the literacy program, and so on. A real niche market. To avoid manufacturing fixed costs, we started a development program with small sewing suppliers, transferring tools and processes to make them more productive and more happy. This is the approach that we have today with Living Broccoli. And we thought that is a real social green and above all, profitable project. And we are really, really proud of it.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Let me see if there are any questions in the room straight away or any questions online. Then we have one question here. Let me also check if we have anything in the chat room. Not yet. So let's go to Atev with the first question. And then I'm sure other people will have more questions as we go.
Okay.
Just a second. I think I'm here.
Hi, Claudia. So, congratulations on the business. First, my question was mostly around the volume of production that you have in terms of
You can't see. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
I can see you.
Close up on my face. That will also not a good idea as well, I think. So let's go ceiling. I think it's best. No?
Yeah, it's a ceiling.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just like finish quickly the question. So the question was really around the volume of production that you have
Okay.
per month, or I don't know how basically the production chain is set up, and also how many tons of billboard, like reused billboard, that represents.
Was about the production, right? Right, about the time.
Just a second. Okay, can you go ahead, Claudia?
Okay, was about the production time, the production process, or
The production volume. How much have you produced and how many billboards have you sort of taken down? Let's say how many tons of plastic have you kept from the ocean and so on?
Okay. Well, the production volume is important for us, specifically because we're a production plant, right? And that was the specific point of the change of the business model. We need to produce more pieces, more units, in order to get it cheaper than the you can give if you only produce one or two or two pieces, right? So we started to make Living Broccoli not such a craft company, but such a productive company. So we combine. We use some very industrial processes in order to get a better volume. So in that case, we use molds and things in order to produce more volume. Last week, we take advantage of this season in El Salvador, which is Christmas, which is a very is a season that everybody gives, giveaways and things like that. Companies used to do that. So volume was great because we achieved more business with our companies. Our volume to produce, a good volume to produce for us is to make 100 pieces, not 10, 20, but 100. So in that quantity, we can get a better economy scale and a better prices, right? So our volume depends on our client demands, but most of them are hundreds or thousands of pieces. That is the new model. So at that point, we use different industrial processes, even though our sewing persons are still a craft person, right?
So to clarify, because you've switched to this B2B model for just a few months, if I understand correctly, you're still not in the place where you have thousands of units being produced, but that is your immediate aim, to move to the thousands and then to the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And do you have any kind of measure of the, let's say, amount of plastic you've used so far, like the number of tons that you've sort of saved from the ocean, or no?
No, not yet, but we are working on that. We are in the process of green certification. So in that case, we can measure that, the impact as well as the canvases reduce the waste of the normal business,
Okay, cool. Next question. Yes, so Ani has a question about the video and she will ask you that question now.
Okay, hi again, Claudia. So my question, let me do this so you can see my face. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So your video that we also shared for this program is great to show the products, but it doesn't show where it comes from. Where is it coming from? So like it doesn't show that it's coming down from a billboard and being produced. So my question was if this is something on purpose, because you want to focus on product I don't know. Just asking, or is it something that you're gonna be working to have a new video that will actually show where the products are coming from? Thank you.
Sorry, it was like a playback, so I didn't hear that question good.
Let me repeat the question. So the video that we showed to everyone, the video that we shared from Living Broccoli, focuses only on the product and not on the origin of the product, so where it comes from.
Okay.
The environmental aspect in it. Is this a decision you took on purpose to focus on the products, or why isn't there, that part of the story in the video? How do you address that issue?
Well, I assume that because the video is from the company, the InBev, it doesn't show the products that all the process and the grain part of the processes. But I don't know if you saw the complete video, but it's in a part of doing, it's a person who is doing the canvas.
The video that we shared from Living Broccoli is the one without any speech, the one with just music and showing the products with the Living Broccoli brand.
I will send you a complete video, okay, which is, explaining the process, explaining the people who's involved in it, and explain a little bit of other initiatives of doing that. But the point is to show all the people that brands and companies are aligned with us, and we are trying to use all that billboard materials, right? And all the billboard in the original video appears the big billboard and the campaign, and then the people processing the canvas and everybody involved in that project. So yes, it really has a green meeting and a social meeting in 300 grades, because we're trying to incorporate our social responsibility of do the people more productive and use the materials and upcycle the materials.
Let me expand on Ani's question a little bit, because we discussed this when we talked one-on-one, and I remember you mentioning that very few people are actually actively interested in the environmental side of things. So they might say that they care for the environment, but they don't necessarily go and buy a bag just because it's environmentally friendly. But my question is, continuing Ani's sort of thought, suppose I buy this bag, or suppose I get this bag from Coca-Cola or from InBev as a regular person. I don't really care about the environment very much. I don't know about the problem of plastic in the oceans. How is this bag, or what is your vision for this bag slowly changing my mind? Because the samples that we have, for example, there isn't much communication on them also about the sourcing or about the environmental issue. So what is your vision about how these bags are supposed to create more environmental awareness with the customer? A customer who doesn't care much for the environment at the beginning, but thanks to this bag, they have their first thoughts about the issue of plastic in the oceans, for example.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we used to think that if you use upcycle things or recycle things, you were good, but still the things were very expensive to buy, right? So it doesn't have a real meaning of green thinking, because if you think in green, the things are has to be good, with good quality, but as well has a good price, right? I am not going to buy a bag if it has the same price as the normal bag, and the quality is the same, and the materials are not the same because they're upcycled. So the thing for us, by introducing these green giveaways, was that even though the people is not has not the idea of buying upcycled things because they think that are not good or they're not have the same quality as a normal thing, if you have one that somebody gives to you, you don't buy it, and you try it and you use it, and over the time the stuffs are good, right? you're gonna have that conscience in the sense of getting things that are online of that. What happened with us is that we in El Salvador and in all the countries, I'm pretty sure of that, we thought the brands defined us, right? If I have a Nike or an Adidas thing, I'm cool. But if I don't have if I have a thing that carry that brand and it's good and it looks good and you looks cool, you're gonna use it. It's a trend. At the end, it's a trend, right? I mean, nowadays we're using a micro influencers in order to make a trend to be green. So that works for us because we copy the things that everybody says that are okay, and we think that we are acting good because we're green. Now it's a fashion thing saying that is green. So to give the opportunity to the normal people that doesn't have the opportunity of buy a green thing because it's expensive than the other one is very important for us. It's a real social character, because if you're gonna have, please don't think in the beer bag, because it's a promotional thing, right? But if you have a good bag, a good backpack, if you're studying for the kids that doesn't have the money to buy one, so this is a real social thing, and people gonna copy that actions, and enterprises too, because the companies here in El Salvador and in the Central America region are in the way to convert to a green thinking as well. So they have to be responsible of all the things, doing things that not only helps the brand, improves the brand, but the people that are using too. So that is our vision. Most of the advertising, a campus can work to do something that really help to people to have a better quality of life, even though it's using the same brand. So the company will see that opportunity, and the people will have the opportunity to have good stuff using it.
Let me ask one more question. I promise I won't dominate after that. So I hope the questions are developing in the room and online as well. But just to continue what you were saying, so you have two different models. The first model is what you tried in the beginning. You work as a separate brand, you sell to individuals, and in that sense, you have a lot of control. You are more or less in direct contact with your end user, even though you sell through other stores, let's say. And you have a lot of power to communicate with the end user, to teach the end user maybe about environmental awareness. So that's the first model. The second model, where you are a B2B, you sell to big businesses, you lose contact with the end user, right? And you, in a way, lose the power of your brand a little bit, maybe, because now I get this bag from Coca-Cola. Now I get the bag from InBev. I don't get the bag from Living Broccoli. At the same time, with the second model, you can upcycle more products. With the first model, you can upcycle less products. But with the second model, with the B2B model, you have no direct control over awareness raising. It's the big company that has to tell customers, look, this is a free giveaway for you. It's made from my recycled materials, upcycled materials. Maybe they would say it, maybe they won't say it. So for you, which of these two models is better for the impact side, or what can you do in the second model, in the B2B model, to sort of offset the disadvantages that you have with a weaker brand or with lost contact with the end user?
Even though I lost the contact, and as you said before, we lose a little bit of our brand, right? Because in that model, if I produce several things of a bag, of a duffel bag, for example, I need to change even the label, even the main label, which says Living Broccoli. Nowadays, it's Telefonica, for example, that is a telecommunication company in El Salvador. And if I do a shopping bag for Walmart, I have to change the label of Living Broccoli and put Walmart, and then put in a little space made by Living Broccoli. But it's okay, because at the end, our goal is not to be a hippie vendor in all the craft markets every weekend and take a bag from $15, that only can buy a medium class person in El Salvador. Our goal is to make that bag cost are like $3, and everybody in El Salvador can use a bag that can use and use and use and use over the time. So if you're thinking in a social responsibility company, maybe you can lose a little bit of your brand. I'm pretty sure of that. And maybe you can use also that so cool model that is a collaboration, right, with other brands that makes you grow at the end of the time. So by making collaborations, if you can make in the most quantity of the people, it's a better model business than have a brand that only few people can have.
Great, thank you very much. I think that point about collaboration and being ready to give up some of your brand for the sake of the mission is a very, very interesting point. Next question, anybody in the room? There's a question, Arman has a question.
Okay. Do you plan to diversify the products, the raw material that you use to create products, the waste? And if yes, when and what kind of products are you looking to?
Well, actually, as I commented before, our core business is POP material. I don't know if you're familiar with. The POP material is the advertisement products that you use in a point of sale. So if we are going to a supermarket, you see all the exhibitors that you sell from Coca-Cola or a snack company. We do that. So our main raw materials are plastics. So at the end of this journey, in order to convert to a green point, in a green thinking point, our company was, man, what we are going to do with all these plastics? And we started to use recycled plastic materials. So in that point of view, we have a different perspective of all the, plastic adverse of the word. We thought like, hey man, you have to use the plastic, so it's better to use it in these materials that extend the lifetime of the materials against paper and things like that. And we started to find new ways, and Living Broccoli was the perfect solution for us because we use materials and canvas. So we started to upcycle the canvases, and nowadays we have to really think about what we are going to do with the plastics. So yes, we are started with the canvases, we're started with the Living Broccoli materials, but we have to go to a plastic now. And that is the complete green thinking conversion of our company.
Okay, thank you. Next question, does Arpine is online. Arpine, if you have a question, please let us know. Anybody in the room? I still have more questions, so I'm not letting you go that easily. Ani has a question as well. Questions? Anybody in the room? Okay, Ani, you want to ask your question first, and then we'll see. No.
Okay. Can you hear me, Claudia?
Yes, Annie, I
Yeah,
can.
okay, perfect. So my question is about the name. How did you choose the name Living Broccoli?
Okay. Well, you know what broccoli is, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So here in El Salvador, when somebody asks you, "Hey man, how are you doing?" and you do, broccoli. It's like being very neat, very calm, and things like that. So we think starting living as a broccoli, living as cool, living as calm, living um, you know, good and happy. I think living broccoli means living happy, living, taking all the things cool and distress and all the things that combines that phrase in El Salvador.
That's interesting. In English, you have the expression "cool as a cucumber." But
Yeah.
in Armenian, if you call somebody a cucumber, it's not a nice thing to call somebody.
In El Salvador, it's very popular that you have that you can surf even every day, because in El Salvador we have our beaches are like 30 minutes from the capital, so you can go and surf at the morning and come back to your office and start your labor day. And our first product was surfboard cases.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. My next question is about working with micro businesses. We have several social enterprises in Armenia that work with micro businesses as suppliers. And one of the problems that they have is sometimes they suddenly have a big order.
Mm-hmm.
They're not able to supply that big order because they only have like 10 producers or 5 producers, and there's not enough capacity. Have you had this problem? Do you think you'll have this problem? What can you do to prevent a problem like this?
We work with several micro entrepreneurs. And what we do with them is to help them to develop a real efficient model, right? Our production manager goes to the micro entrepreneurs and develop with them a program, a delivery program, combine new processes, right? More industrial process that can improve their efficient. So we don't work just with one. We work like 5 or 6, and we try to combine all the different price that we have in order to not to comply with the delivery times, right? That is very important for us here in El Salvador, in our society. The people share the knowledge. It's very it's your know-how. You don't have to share it. So we are trying to change that in order to make that all the people who works with us really grow with us, not just to try it as a supplier. Try it really as a co-worker of us. So they came to a plant, they see the process, we apply the process that in the other product lines can be good for them. And even though we share with them our own suppliers, our raw material suppliers, or help them to buy in other countries when the raw material is cheaper than us, and that works for us. It's very important because when you see our suppliers, you not see that typical relationship that you are working for me, No, it's like we're coworkers. So you can come here all the time you want. We can ask all the things you want, and we will help them.
Great, thank you. Next question. Next question is also from me.
Sorry, all the thinking in all aspects. As I told you before, Nazareth, the other thing that help us is the government. You know, sometimes I'm pretty sure you're not in all the side with your government, but you have to take all the advantage from the government and the other organization that can help you. Even though you know there is no perfect government or something like that, you have to take advantage and ask as a help from them, from all the organization. As I told every Salvadorian people, we are a small country, so we have to grow, we have to go to other countries, and that's the way to grow as well. Not to think that you only have to sell in your country, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, one more question from me. We were discussing a little bit earlier in the group and when we were talking as well. At the moment, Living Broccoli is a brand. It's not a separate organization. It's not a separate social enterprise. But when we were discussing it one-on-one, you mentioned that at some point, maybe you will become a separate company as a social enterprise. So what are the advantages for you of spinning off as a separate organization? And what are the disadvantages of spinning off and becoming a separate social enterprise?
Well, nowadays, our first advantage is that we take all the sales strategy from the other line in order to impulse the Living Broccoli strategy, right? For example, we don't have to use any additional costs for right now in vendors, in salespersons, because we use the other platform for say something. So this is the principal advantage. And the other advantage is that for nowadays, for us, is a different product line. So we take advantage of our clients from the other line and impulse that line, right? And obviously, the disadvantage is that we are not 100% focused on Living Broccoli because our core business is not Living Broccoli yet. So the people who's involved to make Living Broccoli grows, it's a part-time job for us. This is the first disadvantage.
Okay. Is there a question? Yeah, just a second. Just a second. Let's bring the
camera. Okay. Hi, Claudia.
Hey.
Question: Did you try to offer those canvases to big sewing productions? I mean, big manufacturers, because in that case, maybe you will have an opportunity to upcycle more canvases.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
Okay, go Claudia. Claudia, you can. I think you can. You can talk now.
Okay. Well, thinking about other solutions of the canvases, yes, we take advantage of have all the canvases, but you know what happens sometimes that in that business model you have like a difficult point, and if it's not all the brands works printing the canvas with us. So imagine if you're working with the InBev competitors, which in El Salvador is Pepsi. For instead, Coca-Cola is Pepsi, right? If our company doesn't print the Pepsi canvases, it's very hard to go to my competitor and ask the canvas for Pepsi. So this is not easy for us. But looking at other kind of materials, we are trying to make all the products that they need. We have a design department, which is partially thinking in other things that we can do with the canvases.
Actually, the question was a little bit different.
Can you hear Heike if he speaks from there without
No.
the... Just a second. Let's bring the phone.
Thank you for the answer, but the question was a little bit different.
Okay.
I asked, did you try to offer your canvases to sewing productions? I mean, manufacturers who are sewing different things and they maybe need materials, raw material.
Like printed less canvases?
Like which are already selling and producing.
I mean, I think the question is, if I can rephrase it, did you ever consider being a supplier of raw materials only with your canvases to other companies that design and print their own materials? And Ani is frozen on our screen, so please say something so that the picture on the screen changes.
Yeah, but as I told you before, the difficult part here is that in advertising, if you are not working with one brand, if you're working with one brand, generally you're not working with the others. And if you are not working with the others, your competitor does. And your competitors and you have a good relation. And
I think that let me rephrase it like this. So you are an advertising company. You work with, doesn't matter, any number of companies. You put their advertisement on billboards, right? And then the period of the advertising is over, you remove the billboard. Now you have this waste material, as you said, which in your case you've used as raw material for your own production. Did you ever consider using this selling this as raw material to other companies or donating to other organizations that will use it to make the products that they have designed themselves? So you are something else, not necessarily bags or whatever. So in this case, you don't design and make your own products. You are simply a supplier of raw materials for somebody else. You are still saving this plastic from going to the ocean or going to waste, but you are letting somebody else do something else with it, basically any way they want. Was this something that was a consideration for you when you were developing this idea?
It could be, but we are not doing it for nowadays. I think that it can be an opportunity, yes. But we're not doing at the moment.
Potential idea, but not something you've considered actively.
Yeah.
Any other questions in the room?
The only difficult thing here is that, it's like when you have a uniform of a company that you give the uniform to, your people, and then that person is not working anymore with the company. So you're not, you don't have to use that uniform, right? And you don't want to see the logos with other people. So the thing is that before we used canvases and street vendors ask for the leftovers to us, we try to, not to give them logos and things like that, because our companies can sell us that was not good for the brand, right? And we have to manage that. We have to think in how manage that. Nowadays, with the with the new business model, you can use all the canvases. That is the goal, not waste any centimeter of the canvas, right? If your logo, stays away or whatever, all the materials, because it has a design intention, has the brand, for it says the brand of all the things, you can use it. But in the case, if I want to sell the raw material or things like that, I think I can be aware of the brands. and what they are going to say if anybody else is using it.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have to think about it.
Any other questions in the room or online? If not, let me just close with one question. Tell us, if you can, a little bit more about the social entrepreneurship situation in El Salvador. Do you have many social enterprises? What kinds of issues do they focus on? And also on the sort of responsible business side. So if you're thinking more of yourself as a responsible business, like a big business that has a CSR component, maybe a little more about that. To what extent in El Salvador is the private sector involved in solving social problems and environmental problems?
In El Salvador, like in any other countries, yeah, people started to think about the social side of the business, but there is only initiatives from all the companies at the moment because there is no formal law or formal initiatives that gives you a real impact in that. But I think that if all the companies started to do things like us, we are going to have this like a standard, right? Like a statement. So we have a few companies working for that, especially the work minister and things like that, and several ONGs along the country. But I think the most powerful tools came for the companies, right, like us. And we used to work, well, the work of Minister of Work, has different laws nowadays that you have to involve a percentage of women and disability people, and but there's no social impact like please help vulnerability sectors people or what. In El Salvador, we have a real problem, a real social problem with the gangs. A few can say it's in the news, and are very warning by hiding people is all the background life of the people, especially in boys, especially in young boys. So we need to be real careful about it, but we try to give the opportunity of all the people that we know, you know. But it's a real social problem in El Salvador. The gangs, the poverty, is very important. We started to work in a program last few years ago about people who were who came from the United States, and because they were on gangs in the United States, but was a very concerned because we were a little bit concerned in started that program, but we started to develop with them with through an ONG sewing programs, and I started to explain what the process are, but we don't start to work with them at the moment. Only just seminars and things like that.
Okay. We actually have one more question that's added on the time. Oh, we also have a question in the chat. Oh, excellent. Okay. So there's a question in the chat that I can read out. Hi, everyone. Claudia, could you please talk about how you manage building a self-sustaining enterprise while generating impact? Was it challenging to keep an optimal balance?
Let's talk about how one can manage building itself. Yeah, of course it's a challenge. Especially because the prices, as I told you before, when you have a social enterprise and a social product, as Lean Broccoli is, you have to be aware that everybody is going to buy it if it has a good price, right? And if you don't have a good price, if your products are expensive than the normal things, even though it's a green product, even though it's a cool product, people is not going to buy it. So to get that balance, in order to have a good quality product with people that are not so professional by doing it, because there still are micro entrepreneurs, and you have to develop them, is very difficult. So you have to try. I mean, we have plenty of products in our like a dummies, because it doesn't have it doesn't have works, or it doesn't have the impact that we thought that they will. And we started to work with people that doesn't work for us. It's sad to say it, but and you have to develop other and try. I mean, it's not easy. You have to get a balance between quality of products, between the a good product itself, and the right price, right? So it's very challenging. An optimal balance, you get it as a few trials and few times by doing the same, and it's not working at the first one. You have to try it, and you have to keep trying.
Great, thank you. And I think the last question for today from Angela. Are you, just a second?
So the question that I have is about whether or not you're planning on expanding internationally, or have you considered it? Is it something that you might do in the future, or yeah, basically.
Okay. Well, as a social product, is difficult to expand that to other markets. I will explain you why. Because the main promise for Living Broccoli as this new model, that is a green model, is that you are using your own canvases, right? I mean, if you are doing a campaign, you are going to use your canvases campaign, and then you are going to produce real products from that canvases. So the thing is that if you're working with, I'm in El Salvador, right? And you are working with Honduras, which is the next country from Central America, you have to take all the canvases to El Salvador and then produce them, transforming it, upcycling it, and then come back to Honduras. So it has at least $500 from the freight forward and introduction and things like that. So the price increases. So nowadays, our thinking is that export the business model in other countries and transfer all the know-how, all the business model, and make like a franchise in other countries, and other companies working the same products for the local companies. Otherwise, we can do upcycled materials, but not with their own canvases, but with canvases that we have in our factory.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you very, very much for your time, Claudia. I think we learned quite a bit from Living Broccoli in general, and from today's webinar and discussion in particular. I hope you had fun with us as well. Thank you very much. Of course, I did. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It was a pleasure. Bye.